What's up, everybody, and welcome back to You'll Never Talk Alone. I'm your host, Alex Lebel, joined today by a driving Joseph Craven. Joseph, how are you doing today?
I'm very mobile right now. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever recorded at such speed. You're probably going 60 miles an hour, so I mean, this is the fastest episode to ever have.
I know, it's crazy. Well, it's a clean 35 out here in Madison, Mississippi right now, as far as miles per hour. There was one time in which Zach and I recorded an episode in his car after we all went to St. Louis for the preseason match against Roma.
That's true. I forgot about that one.
And I think that was actually the fastest one because we were actually on the interstate as opposed to me driving by a bunch of churches at a reasonable speed.
I mean, that shouldn't stop you from going 80, 85.
Yeah, I think those are Baptist churches. They don't care anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'll tell you who else didn't care. Bournemouth, because they did not show up. We kicked the crap out of them. 3-0. Great goals from the team. Joseph, what excited you about this match and stood out as different from the two matches that we had drawn?
Oh, I mean, well, first, we scored goals. We actually scored goals.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. It's riveting. Well, you know, we had talked about in the past couple of episodes, I believe Zach was the first one to really point it out, in that we haven't looked ourselves in terms of our offensive abilities as of late. And I think some of that came down to the fact that we had so many injuries in the back line, in the defense, in the midfield, all of that, you know, a number of factors play into how that affects the offensive, you know, attacking the forwards, all of that. You know, the forwards maybe feel too much pressure. Maybe there's just not enough chemistry there in the way that they all play in order to feed that. But this was a match in which we actually saw the team play more like themselves, just as a whole, across the board, not just in scoring goals, but you saw the defense looking a little bit more comfortable and not trying to, not panicking, basically. I think we even complimented Matip at some point, didn't we? In our group text thing, I feel like we even complimented Matip of all people. So
yeah, we said he was playing well, which he was.
He was, exactly. We actually saw the team as a whole just look more comfortable, look more like themselves, look like they haven't done in a few weeks now. Maybe even haven't done since like Christmas, if we're being honest here, as far as looking like they have identity as a team. But part of that also probably comes down to, correct me if I'm wrong here, probably comes down to the fact that like Bournemouth actually tried to play us straight up for some reason, right? I mean, is that
right? Yeah, they came to play, but they're also a team that you really never know what you're going to get. I mean, the performance, apart from the first 10 minutes when Frazier went at Milner and had that shot that Alisson saved, they didn't really look anything like the team that beat Chelsea 4-0.
Right.
So they're such a hot and cold team that we got them on a cold day. They didn't really look like they were ever going to trouble us apart from that one shot. Yeah, we were compact. We were reunified all over the pitch. And I think that comes down to two things. And I'll ask you, which one do you think had more of an impact? Because we saw Salah and Mane score. I can't remember the last time they both scored in the same game. But
I know.
Do you think
they normally take turns? They're like a tag team. It's like, okay, this is your match. I'll get the next one. You just let me know.
Right, exactly. So they finally played well at the same time. And do you think that comes down to the midfield three that we played of Gini, Fabinho, and Naby Keita? Or do you think that the shifting Bobby back up to the striker position and putting Salah back out to the right had more of an effect on how we played?
Dang, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Wow.
You might need to pull over for that one.
I know. Well, I just hit some road work here, so I'm actually at a complete standstill, which is the first time I've ever been happy that that's happened. So, I'm going to say it's the performance of the midfield. If I have to choose, I'm going to say it's the midfield. If I don't have to choose, I'm going to say they were both equally important. But since you're making me choose here, I'm going to say midfield because that has been over the length of the entire season, that has seemed to be our most inconsistent area of play. And obviously, we've made a lot of comments about Bobby's inconsistency lately. The attacking, the forwards as a whole, as of late, not really producing as we need them to produce or whatever it may be. But the midfield all season long has been okay, are we going to get the good midfield or are we going to get the shaky midfield? And so I think it's very important that we had the good midfield in this particular matchup. But more importantly than all of that is just the overall performance as of late, the past several matches. I mean, the season in general, but especially the past few matches from Gini Wijnaldum. Absolutely. This is maybe the first time since he was brought in that we've really seen why it is that the team went after him so hard. I know you've always been a fan of his, because you even got his kit like the moment he signed.
Right.
You had his kit before he had his kit is the common joke. Because I remember when we were in St. Louis, we'll go ahead and reference the St. Louis trip again, was like the week that he had signed or whatever, basically. So he hadn't done anything yet with the team. We ended up at a training session and like we're getting some autographs and stuff. And you had the black Gini Wijnaldum kit. Correct? Was it the black one or did you have the red one?
It was the away kit for that year.
Yeah, you had the away kit for that year. And like he had the biggest Genie grin on his face when like you asked him to sign it, because you could tell he was like, he had never seen it before.
Yeah. It was like, I haven't even worn this yet.
Yeah, it was his first time to see the away kit for that year with his name and number on it, which is really cool. But we've really been seeing why it is that Klopp wanted him, why it is that the team went after him, why it is that we brought him in, and because of what he had been able to do, before his tenure at Liverpool when he was, on the continent and all that. Which has a question, I guess, that I want to ask you then. It kind of leads into that. And you can, because you and I had texted a little bit just between the two of us about like the difference between playing in European play versus playing in English league play. And like, there's, vast stylistic differences in the Premier League versus when you get into the Champions League and you're playing against other teams. Do you think that do you think that there's like an adjustment period with Wijnaldum maybe? And now that we're a couple of seasons through, like he's good to go as far as adjusting to the English game?
Well, I think we've seen, and we've talked about this before with him, is that when certain players are around him, he either plays up or plays down to their level or brings out the best or worst in them. So with the amount of rotation we've done in midfield, we've kind of seen him, while being consistent level individually performance-wise, as a unit, you've seen him kind of look either as a bit part player or as the most important person in certain combinations. And so I think we've brought in several players that do more to bring out the best in him, as well as him bringing out the best in them. So they complement each other, because we've struggled with balance a little bit overall in finding the right combinations. But granted, the way Bournemouth played really made us look good. But we've talked about it a few times this season, and we wish we could have talked about it more. But this looked like a very balanced midfield in terms of where everybody was, skill sets, the kind of ground they cover, the way some people drive forward, the way some people hold back and play from deep, the way some people bridge the gap. And so I think we're seeing him step up because he is kind of Klopp's general and mouthpiece on the field, as well as having more people doing more around him. So potentially this could be the midfield we see that is the next evolution of the Gini, Milner, Henderson midfield. As long as it is consistent in this type of performance. And Fabinho's been consistent since he came in. We haven't seen Keita be as consistent, but looking towards the future, I think that 3 could be the next level up from the type of midfield we see in Europe. Because you're right, the European game is different, even in terms of Champions League compared to league play. So we've seen that Gini, Milner, Hendo midfield because we're playing against midfields that usually do what we do to teams. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And I'm excited to see how they foil with the front three. And so I guess we can bring it back to that. And I'll ask you what you saw about that, because it looked more natural with Bobby shifting back up to the 9 role and Salah going back out to the right. And I think there were some, I don't have them in front of me, but the stats to show that Salah was more involved in the play and was getting the ball in more dangerous areas when he was shifted back out to the right. So do you think that was just a one-off because everyone on our team is hurt? Or do you think that this is something we'll try to go back to, even since we've been going alternating between the 4-2-3-1 and the 4-3-3?
I mean, that's a tough call. And before I get into that too much, I do want to make one more observation about the midfield. And one of the areas of success there, as the world's loudest steamroller goes by my car and shakes the entire neighborhood. My goodness. One of the keys to the midfield has been how quickly Fabinho has adapted. Because we were talking about, the maybe slower players to adapt or whatever, but we've seen 2 players in the past year who have adapted very quickly to the new roles, and that being Van Dijk and Fabinho. And we've seen their impact with how quickly they've adapted to being on Liverpool versus where they were before, and taking leadership, taking on. Anyway, I think that's been an important midfield storyline as well. And I just wanted to mention that before moving on. But it's tough to say exactly what route we will take moving forward with the forwards. Do you like that? That little bit of wordplay there?
Poetic.
Thank you. It's tough to say exactly because we know that the talent level between Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Mohamed Salah, the talent level is so high between those 3 that it kind of trumps play style a little bit more so. Like there's some players that are really, really good so long as they are playing a particular style. Gini Wijnaldum maybe being an example of that. Like we've seen how different play styles have affected his performances. But we know that those 3 are good enough where their talent itself, can trump switching around, rotating to different styles and all that. So I feel like we feel if there's any area on the pitch in which we feel like we can rotate more comfortably, it's with our attacking approaches. But you can't deny what we were able to see. Again, like you were saying, this match just seemed more natural in a lot of areas, especially with Bobby doing what he was doing in that role that he basically, created for himself when he was first asked to be a false 9 essentially, and he was like, false 9 nothing, check this out. So yeah, it's felt more natural. I don't know what we would do moving forward, and I feel like we have some options. Like we don't have to feel stuck with anything, but personally I would love to see us replicate what we were the style in which we were playing this past weekend, because I think it's where those players are all at their best.
Agreed. And it was melding the best of the swift counterattacks from last season and our new, more controlled the game style, which I think was incredibly promising to see. I know we can't take it too far out of proportion since it was Bournemouth, and we've got Bayern Munich next. But
exactly. It's a slightly different level of competition, I guess.
Just a little bit, but not too much. I think the goal that Salah scored kind of showed how natural everyone was feeling, because the back heel from Bobby, the run he made, and then the finish from Salah, that was just vintage in terms of 1 year, but it was still vintage. And so I really do want to see more of that, even if we do shift formations a little bit, if maybe bring Shaqiri back in the 10, but make sure Bobby is up top and Salah is on the right. So I mean, a lot of positives to take, and I mean we have to compliment. We complimented the goal that Salah scored, but we have to compliment Gini Wijnaldum's goal. It was one of the goals.
Oh, absolutely!
Not many times I will draw a parallel between Gini and Dimitar Berbatov, but there was a goal that Berbatov scored for Monaco that was essentially the exact same, and I was very surprised to see Gini pull that out of his locker. So very, very happy overall with the performance, and also very happy with Trent Alexander-Arnold making a return. So do you see him able to start against Bayern Munich? Because, I mean, he's back. We've got a week from when we're recording before we play. So do you think he's ready to go?
Right. I think he's going to have to be. Whether or not he actually is a different question. But I think we saw how much we struggled not having him there. We saw how disjointed the entire back four got, not having a consistent, reliable right back. And so I think he's going to have to be, even if he's not 100% and we don't try to utilize him like we would normally. Because when he's healthy and Dandy Andy is doing what he's doing, we do tend to play through our fullbacks a lot. And so I feel like maybe we won't see that quite as much. We won't see him be a focal point moving forward, so much as kind of a grounding point in the back line. But we're going to have to play him. We're just going to have to. He's too important, not just what he brings talent-wise, skill-wise, and all of that, but also just the fact that he actually is a right back. And we don't have anyone else. What else are we going to do? So, I mean, he's going to have to. But I think he'll be all right. Because, like you said, we still have more time. As long as we don't have any of our classic training mishaps that injures a key player, then I think we'll be okay.
Yeah,
I hate that I even said that. Why did I even say that out loud?
I don't know. I think we've gotten them out of the way because we lost 3 people the day before the West Ham game. So surely that couldn't happen again. I mean, it is. Come on. So, yeah, I mean, we just touched on it. Next match, big Champions League tie against Bayern Munich. We expect Trent to be back. I kind of feel, even after the break, even after people coming back, that we will see almost the exact same lineup that we saw against Bournemouth, because I think they can play the way we'll probably need to play. The big issue is that Virgil van Dijk is suspended for that match. So how do you think we shift based on that information?
Well, I've always said that Bayern is the Bournemouth of Germany. Always said that. So I think the only way that we can shift from the absence of Van Dijk is to not field any defenders at all and just throw everyone forward, because that man's impact is absurd to the way that the defense plays. Obviously, Alisson has been incredible, and he is a grounding force as well. But that's the one area that's kind of nerve-wracking a little bit, is trying to find a replacement there. I think we're going to have to play with more of a mentality of what we saw last season, 2 seasons ago, all that, where we were like, okay, we've got to try to outscore you.
Yeah.
Which I think that the performance against Bournemouth was obviously a huge confidence booster. I think we get past that and we look back on the fact that, okay, our worst stretch of the season, we still didn't lose matches.
Right.
Our panic mode stretch of the season was not, we didn't lose. We just drew when we kind of wanted to do a little bit more than that. And that's all. So I think we come into this with confidence, knowing that, okay, we made it through a nasty stretch. We remembered how to score goals and how to play more naturally. This will be a higher level of competition for sure, but we can press the issue because they're also going to want to press the issue. And so it could play in our hands there. It'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting to see how it is that we actually line up, how it is that we actually play. But I think we're going to have to push forward a lot faster and not rely as much on our defense being rock solid.
I agree, because I think we'll probably shift Matip to the left and put Fabinho on the right and center back, because Lovren didn't even travel to Marbella or Marbella. I don't know how to say it.
Marlboro. It's a cigarette company.
Of course, yeah. So we're just puffing like chimneys to help improve our levels. And I think it'll help to have Trent back for sure, because they'll likely play Kingsley Coman out there on his side, and he is very, very fast. And I think Trent will have the pace to keep up with him, unlike Milner, because for some reason Milner isn't very fast. I don't know what is holding him back. Maybe it's the 80,000 miles that are on his leg over the course. So I think it'll be, with that center back pairing, we'll need the flank strong against their pace, but that probably means Henderson coming back in if he's fit, to play that deeper lying midfielder, since Fabinho will be gone in the back line. But I think the Anfield effect on a big European night can somewhat make up for Virgil not being in there.
Sure.
It affects every team that comes to Anfield.
It does.
So I think that will be huge while Virgil is out. But if we attack like we did against Bournemouth, and we have similar patterns of play, I think we can get at Bayern. The center of their defense is pretty soft, even if Sula does start. I mean, they're recovering from their shaky first half of the season based on results this half of the season, but they're still not what they were. And I think they're imminently beatable, and I think we can do that with our front three. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to make an early score prediction.
I'm going to say it's a wild 5-3 match. No, not 5-3. I think we're going to see something like a 3-2 type of finish. I think I could easily see it being in Liverpool's favor. That the Anfield effect being what pushes Liverpool over into the winning edge. But I think this is a matchup where we're going to see some goals on both sides, and it's going to be an incredibly entertaining match, which, of course, being a fan also means an incredibly frustrating and stressful match.
Yeah.
So that's great. But I'm sure we'll talk more in detail, because we do, just like the Trent Alexander-Arnold, we still have a week to prepare. So hopefully we'll be able to fit another recording session in at some point. But if I'm having to guess, I think the ultimate prediction that I'm definitely locking myself down to is that there's going to be multiple goals scored.
I agree. I don't know if as many, because I'm going 2-1 win our way.
A classic scoreline.
I think both of our goals will come from corners. I think we'll win headers and score, because we're really good at that. That's our biggest weapon, is attacking corners. So that's I think we match up well, even with Virgil gone, and I think we'll be able to do it. But like you said, hopefully we'll have another recording session to preview it in more detail. Yeah,
for sure. Let me ask you this real quick before we actually wrap things up. I got a quick question for you.
Bring it.
I mentioned before, this was like the panic mode point of the season. This was the moment in which fans all across Liverpool fandom, especially Liverpool Twitter, LFC Twitter was like, oh my God, we're going to lose the title race because we can't beat teams. We're dropping points in all these matchups against, West Ham and all that. I personally feel like, because it's the moment that we won against Bournemouth, there were fans that popped up. They were like, I can't believe you are all panicking. I was never feeling that way. I personally feel like a little bit of panic was totally justified. I kind of want to get your feelings on like the panic level in fans, because I feel like, you have a prime opportunity to go up by a few points in one of the tightest title races that we've seen in recent memory. And you didn't take full advantage. Do you feel like some of that panic was justified?
I'd say yes. I'd say it was perfectly natural to feel upset and worried about how the team was playing through that busy stretch, because some of our performances for the draws were not good, and it was a peak opportunity, like you said, to gain ground. It's not one that we have very often, so I don't understand how people can be upset with other people for feeling a little concerned about that.
Right.
But our fan base is very strange. And there's a lot of like weird chastising about how people feel. I don't know if it's that way in other fan bases. I don't know if it's that way on Bournemouth Twitter. and they're more inconsistent than we are. So it's weird. I think it was perfectly fine to feel concerned, but we've recovered. This was a performance that we desperately needed, especially considering the nature of the big matches. Not only do we have Bayern next week, we've got United, and then we've got the derby coming up. So we needed that, but considering what could have happened had we won those games, I think it's perfectly okay to not be pleased that we didn't win those games.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, obviously some people are going to overreact. This is sports. Sports fans overreact to everything, especially in the social media age of being a sports fan.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's definitely a level of panic that's totally justified because I was there. I was with, and I'm trying to make sure that I feel okay with having panicked.
Yeah, and you could hear it a little bit in some of the episodes we recorded back then.
Oh yeah,
we sounded kind of negative, but of course, everything bearing in mind the context of the whole season, we're pleased overall. But you can't be overly ecstatic with everything, especially considering there were times when we played like crap. So you can't. Yeah, you gotta.
I mean, who was it that we had was it Sal? Friend of the program, Sal, on Twitter, who was just like, that's one of the most depressing episodes I've ever heard coming from a team that's top of the league right now.
we don't know what to do. And so Liverpool fans are having trouble processing their emotions.
Yeah. This is a season 30 years in the making.
Yeah.
You know, if it pans out the way that we're hoping it should pan out, this is a season 30 years in the making. And it's really, once again, I've said it before, but it's fascinating, but also annoying that we could be having the best season that we've had in 30 years and still barely be on top because City's having an incredible season and Tottenham's having an incredible season, you know?
Yeah.
It's amazing, but I hate it.
And as pundits have pointed out, our title charge more than not just Cities, but most teams is so backed by emotion and expectation and longing that this is no one knows how to process anything they're feeling right now. We're like a bunch of like puberty teenagers. We don't know what's going on. Our voices are cracking. Everything is a crisis. And I'm fully part of that myself.
Oh, yeah. My voice has been cracking all day.
And on that odd note, we are going to wrap it up for this week. We might have
let's talk about the weirdest metaphor for the season that we can find. That's the name of the episode right there.
And let's talk about how I said puberty teens, not...
Puberty teens. I wasn't going to say anything. I was about to say I'm back at work. At the school that I work at, guess I'm going to go back and hang out with all the puberty teens that attend the school.
Apparently, English is my fourth language, and I didn't even realize. So, yeah, tweet at us at YNTA Podcast. Let us know how panicked you are, how not panicked you are, how we should be feeling, because we don't know. And, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Score predictions, lineup predictions, interesting stories about Bayern Munich that you might have, how much you hate them coming into this week. Sure.
I mean, any Bayern and Bournemouth comparisons that you want to make, send them our way, because we've always said, you know, Bournemouth is the Bayern of England. So we've always said that.
Yeah, if someone could make a side-by-side comparison that like every tech company does, comparing their solution to another solution with those two clubs, we'd greatly appreciate it, and we'll definitely retweet it and make it our Twitter header. So there you go.
Yes.
So that'll wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in. Joseph, thank you for recording while you're in your car.
Yeah, man. Thanks for making the drive through all that road work a lot more entertaining.
Hey, you're welcome. And we knew you were in Madison County because there was actually road work being done.
Right. You could tell when I actually hit Hinds County and Jackson, because I was in the middle of a point, and all of a sudden my voice got really shaky from all the potholes.
I thought you were just breaking out your vibrato.
Just practicing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go, listener. Goodbye.